Good. We got it again. Yeah. So I'm going to talk you through this video, as it happens. What's happened with these guys? They've got supplementary oxygen, but for some reason it's not quite getting through to everybody. So they've experienced quite a significant case of hypoxia, and they're at 21,000 feet. So just look at the behaviour. What you'll notice, if you see a couple of signs of what they're saying, it's like being really, really seriously drunk. Okay? As you know, we're only supposed to have, between groups of exits, as the plane's moving on, approximately 3 to 5 seconds, which gives us a couple of hundred meters from one guy getting out to the next guy getting out. And we'll have a little look shortly when these guys start to exit the plane, how long it takes them. The whole jump run should last no more than about 45 to 50 seconds to get the first guys out and the last guys out, and the around the job zone. But if we watch these guys just a few minutes later, we'll notice that they start experiencing some pretty severe signs of hypoxia. Some of the signs that we try and watch out for with hypoxia are blue lips and fingertips. Okay, like when you get really, really cold. Tingles in the fingertips and tingles all over. So pins and needles. When people start experiencing pins and needles, that's an early onset sign of hypoxia. The ability to do simple maths, like 2 and 2 is 4. People under hypoxic conditions have been trying to do that and they're just coming up with all sorts of different answers. Here we go. So we're on our way out. And you watch these guys trying to move to the door. Acting all drunk. So it's 3 to 5 seconds is long past. This guy can't even get up. He can't even walk. But he doesn't know it, and this is the important thing with hypoxia. Just like being drunk, you're not aware that you've lost these abilities.
But when you dive down past 20 and 30 metres, we call it hitting March. It's the same, it's nitrogen narcosis, but it's exactly the same. It's lack of oxygen in the chain, lack of oxygen in the system, and it's like people drown dying.
Yeah.
They get marked and they're too drunk, and they can't use their brain to start surfacing to get more oxygen through their system.
It's the exact same situation. I'm reversed.
Yeah.
He's trying. He's still determined that, hey, it's a good decision for me to go skydiving still, even though I'm probably
push him out.
4 miles. I'm probably 4 miles away from the airport. He's not freaking out. That's the thing. Is he thinks he's fine.
If he
going to fall
If he was freaking out, he'd stay in the airplane.
We have the same hypoxia we get island, the same as scuba diving, where once you get down below a certain amount of feet, the blood starts circulating and it starts coming through. Does it therefore itself out?
Yes, it does. So we'll get to that in just a minute.
Here we
go. Fall down.
He probably thinks he's already out of the plane.
Oh, he just fell down.
And finally, he's gone. Now, our instructors are a lot more experienced than these guys. They are highly trained and they are aware. They keep an eye out for each other.
So when they start to drop, do they get back their consciousness?
Yeah, that's, we'll come to that in just a second. So, indeed, hypoxia really only does happen above 10,000 feet. The higher you go, the more intense it can be. But when, even these guys, when they hop out that plane in free fall, as they're in free fall, as they come back down below 10,000 feet into an oxygen-rich environment, their consciousness and their cognitive functions are all going to progressively come back to them. And you really back up to 100% usually before you need to open your parachute.
So when do you open your parachute? And the other part of the question is, has anyone died from hypoxia?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
Not
to my knowledge, hypoxia is not really influenced a lot of their situation because as you come back down into that oxygen-rich environment, well before you open your parachute at 4,000 feet, you get your functions back.
So you open it at 4,000?
Same day and time of work.
So the real issue is on skydives, there's lots of people skydiving together. If you hopped out and you're hypoxic and you don't know that you're totally rubbish, you can fly up to other people and you can take them out. Right? So like driving drunk. Driving drunk is not a problem if you're in a paddock with no one else around. There's nothing for you to hit. It doesn't matter how drunk you get, really. Same thing in the sky, there's no one else up there, it really wouldn't matter. But when you've got other people, traffic around, then you really do need your judgment and your wits about you and hypoxia robs you of it. So it does return below 10,000 feet. It's minimal on most of our skydives from 10 to 14,000 feet, but as we start offering more and more of these 18,000 foot skydives, it can happen to people being deprived of oxygen. Again, this is not something that you're going to be briefing your customers on as part of your briefing, but a lot of people will from time to time poke their hand up and ask, hey, what happens when you're deprived of oxygen and so on? So you guys need to know about this level of background information so that you can answer those questions authoritatively and give those guys the confidence that they need in our team to be able to feel comfortable when they jump out of the plane and not experience too much sensory overload. Yeah? Any questions on hypoxia?
So those guys basically just spent too long up there above 10,000 feet
Indeed.
before they...
Yeah, and they thought they had oxygen, they've got oxygen mask on, but in the case of that video, the oxygen system malfunctioned.
Right.
So they really didn't know that they were hypoxic. Whereas they probably had a false sense of confidence, saying, I've been on oxygen, whatever it is I am feeling, it's not hypoxia. So, moving right along, something else that can happen in the environment, free fall, we're up there in the sky. What happens in the sky? What's something that you commonly see in the sky? Weather, right? Weather is a factor of the environment on someone's first time of skydive. There's really not much that can affect the weather as far as the time of skydive is concerned. There's just a couple of things we're going to look at. One of them is temperature. The average temperature up there depends on the temperature down here. There's a little magic number that we use, which is 2 degrees per 1,000 feet. It's the same if you're going up and down. So basically, temperature drop, air temperature drops 2,000 feet every 1,000 feet that you go up. So if it's 28 degrees down here on the ground on an average sort of autumn or spring day, what would be the temperature at 14,000 feet? Fiona?
Oh, hang on.
2 degrees,
Two
per,
degrees.
2 degrees per 1,000 feet,
Per 1,000 feet.
and we're going to 14,000 feet.
So it's sub-zero.
Correct, Amundo. Exactly. All you have to do is double the altitude that you're going. You're going 40,000 feet, double it, that's 28 degrees, and take that 28 degrees off the temperature on the ground, you've got the temperature, or it's going to be free fall. Roughly. I mean, it can vary by a number of degrees, but that's what the weathermen and what all of aviation use as an approximate temperature change. So, again, that's another reason really why we don't go too high in 14,000 feet. These 18,000 foot skydives are sales gimmicks because 18 sounds like you're getting better value for money than 14. But really, it's my opinion that most people are better off at 14,000 feet. It just gets too cold up there. So the other thing, the other element of weather that can affect us on a tandem skydive, as Ali said, is rain. Has anyone ever been on a motorbike in the rain? Yeah? How's it feel? Right? Could you describe it for us?
You're just soaking wet from top to bottom and you can't see, it's cold.
What about the experience of actually hitting the rain?
It hurts, yeah.
Right? It stings someone, doesn't it? Yeah? I'm going to draw a little raindrop up here on the board. Most people accept that as a drawing of a raindrop, yeah? Do you notice anything about the top of the raindrop?
Sharp.
It's the pointy end. And when rain's not falling onto you and you're falling onto rain, it's even sharper because you are hitting the pointy end of the raindrop. And what's more, inside a rain cloud, there's a much higher density of moisture than there is when it falls out of the sky and it's got thousands of feet between there and the ground to disperse. So there's much more moisture density in there, there's more rain for you to hit, and you're hitting the pointy end, and you're hitting it at 200 kilometres an hour, you haven't got your leathers on, and you can't slow down. So jumping in the rain really is an unpleasant experience, especially for your first time as a skydiver. Now, what we do to avoid it, basically, is we do our utmost to avoid jumping in rain at all times. But sometimes you can get caught out. When you look up at a cloud, it might be a big, white, puffy white cloud. A big, light grey cloud, we know that's going to contain a lot more moisture, a lot more rain in it. But sometimes a white cloud, from, as we see it from ground, that can contain moisture too. So that's how we sometimes get caught out. If there's lots of big white clouds around, you can't tell what's in there until you actually get in there. If we put a load through a big rain cloud, we'll put the next load on hold, and we won't go again until that cloud is clear. But sometimes we do get caught out by putting the first load of people up through a big rain cloud, and it is an unpleasant experience for people. Got a quick video here once more to give you an idea of what this is like. It's just not right. Let me just get this to the point where I play the wheel speed, which I think is about there. Here we go. So here this guy is above the cloud. He's quite happy, skylining away. Oh. And that's it. Understandable that you jump through a cloud like that, because it doesn't look like it contains a big moisture. So what's what happens when you get in it? And it's stuck to here. Do a wonderful job of protecting his customer by hiding and cowering behind him. That's not what we do here at Skyline Street. And if you look at the customer, this guy's not experienced with texture overload. He was fine in the top half of the skyline, but he really does not look like he's having a good time now. Because he is getting sandblasted through the corner of the down. It's pretty hard to go away. So, kind of hard for me to express what these things are like for you guys to understand and be able to answer these questions of your customers if you haven't experienced it yourself. The closest we can come is showing you these videos. Now, what we'll actually do, if we do find ourselves in rain, and we do brief the customers on this, if it looks like it's a rainy day, we'll brief the customers on this, we'll take the customer's hands and we'll pop them under their throat, because this little part of your throat is highly sensitive, and that's really where it stings the most. So if it's a rainy day, we'll brief the customers as part of the briefing that if the instructor grabs the customer's hands and pops them under their throat, just leave them there and it'll protect them in their most sensitive part and the worst part of the rain. Okay? They are more or less all the different situations that people can experience as part of a changing environment on a tandem skyline. We're going to review our learning outcomes here with just a little verbal Q&A, some more questions. The bulk of the assessment for this session will be done on the job as we observe you guys training customers yourselves. Okay? But just a little Q&A to cover what we've learned this session. First of all, what can happen if a person skylines with blocked sinuses? Jim, can you answer? Aerosinusitis. Yeah. How would you describe the symptoms of aerosinusitis? Kim?
I was going to say worse than childbirth.
Exactly. A headache that's worse than childbirth. Because you need to encourage these guys not to jump, it's their choice. They go, yeah, I can go with the headache. Let's go. No, man, you don't want this. This is bad. So, yeah, good answer. Thanks, guys. Question number 2. What should a person with blocked sinuses do with respect to making a skydive?
Postpone it till they're better.
Excellent. Thank you, Ronnie. Number 3. Can we list together, I'll write them on the whiteboard, list a few of the signs and symptoms of hypoxia.
Confusion?
Yep.
Nausea.
Yep. Confusion, nausea.
Intoxication.
Yep, intoxication, false sense of confidence. Altitude sickness is an overall umbrella term for hypoxia, but it's good that you remembered it, Fiona. What about some of those sort of simple ones that we talked about? What happens to a person's lips? that you can see, right? Blue lips. And what about to how their limbs and how their lips? Yeah.
Pins and needles.
Exactly. Pins and needles. Tingling sensation. And needles. So this we may mention to people who are doing an 18,000 foot skydive. We sometimes, we're not sure at the moment if we feel we have a duty of care. It's been decided. If we do find we have a duty of care to mention this to them, can not leave it in the hands of their instructors, you'll actually be including this as part of the briefing that they have to look out for it if they go to 18,000. When can hypoxia occur?
Over 10,000.
Anytime above 10,000 feet. Excellent. Excellent. How long does sensory overload last for most people when they jump out of a plane?
Parachute.
In the worst case scenario, 3 to 5 seconds. Thank you, Ali. Excellent. It's 3 to 5 seconds for most people. Some people it's less. They're just really cool. For other people, as we saw in the video, it can be the entire skydive. What is the single most important thing a person can do to try and cope with sensory overload?
Breathe.
Breathe. Breathe how?
Out.
Out. What's 3 ways we can encourage people to breathe out?
Scream.
Or
Shout.
excellent. Thank you, Tracy. Very good. And finally, in freefall, what is the best way to shield yourself from rain if you experience rain? Hands under the fire. Thank you, Chair. Excellent. Well, that concludes our session on preparing people for changes to the environment on a 10-minute skydive. In our next session, we're going to be looking at providing participants with information based on scripts and other briefing information. So we're actually going to get into exactly what it is we do teach them each and every briefing. And that will be a little later this afternoon. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you this afternoon.
The training.
Sorry? Right, okay, so I haven't gone too far.
Training evaluation.
Yes, I've got to go out and copy someone else's form.
Yeah, you don't have to black out.
I've got some spare ones.
Jim, I think Jim's a generic, aren't yours? Because mine have got all my...
Are yours generic, Jim?
Yeah.
That would be great. Right.